100 young people who don't have a proper roof over their heads have descended on Parliament today to tackle ministers about the problem. New figures have revealed that since the economic crisis 3 years ago, there's been a 66% increase in rough sleeping in London. Today I went along to Britain's first homeless Parliament. But first I took two MPs, the Conservative Tim Yeo and Labour's Jack Dromey, to meet those braving sub-zero temperatures to bed down for the night on the capital's streets. It's -4 and not far off midnight in Britain's capital city. People without a home to go to are queuing up for emergency accommodation at a homeless hostel. Not all get in. This is Westminster, just up the road from the Houses of Parliament, but a million miles away from the world our politicians inhabit. Tonight, though, I've brought two MPs from opposite sides of the political divide to hear why people, particularly young people, are finding themselves in ever-increasing numbers with nowhere to live, and what those in power should do about it.
You got cold hands.
Katie and Paul met each other on the streets.
I was meant to be a lawyer. But I was a nursery nurse. It was something I'd managed to get together. But
the tragedy is that just a few months ago, both she and Paul did manage to get it together, overcoming past problems with drugs.
When did you last manage to work yourself?
They saved up a deposit to rent a flat in Blackpool and both found jobs.
we had joint work in an ice cream shop, didn't we?
Ice cream parlour in the middle of summer where it's supposed to be good sort of thing, and it's been peeing rain all summer.
And so the guy just closed his shop down. He just gave up on it and he was like, I'm not doing this anymore. We was like, well, we kind of needed that to pay our rent.
Now they're struggling to find a job without a fixed address or a flat, since rents are soaring and benefits are being cut.
Why can't you just now say, right, the council has got legal obligation to house you? Why?
No,
that might sound stupid, but...
It's only if you're a priority case. It's if you're pregnant, over a certain age, if you've got a severe mental or physical impairment.
If it's not drugs, many of those on the streets have family problems too. That's why, says Jenny Dreyer from the homeless charity The Connection, a government proposal to strip the under-25s of housing benefit, forcing them to live with their parents, won't work.
You know, it is true that a lot of people that we work with, you know, young people in particular, for them living with their families is no longer an issue, and that's actually why they've become street homeless.
Living with family is certainly not an option for Pavel. He arrived from the Czech Republic looking for work, but his life fell apart when his mother died suddenly.
Did you ever imagine that you wouldn't have a roof over your head?
No. You know how many young people I'm seeing and how many old people I swear I'm talking old people 65 like that, and plus young people what is under 20 on the street.
Since 2009, there's been a 34% increase in homeless households in England. The number of families in bed and breakfast accommodation has tripled, and the number sleeping rough has risen 23%. In London, it's risen 43%. But for the under-25s, the figure is even more dramatic, a 66% increase in the capital. This YMCA hostel in West London tries to get people off the streets by giving them emergency accommodation. Maria Obitar came here after losing her job in a care home. She and her 10-year-old son had spent months sofa surfing.
You'd eat on the street like a dog, maybe buy chips or something and eat. It was not healthy, emotionally it was not good for me.
You just said you eat on the streets like a dog. I mean, does it feel to you that it somehow dehumanized you?
Yeah, it did. It did. I felt like I didn't have personality of a human being, actually.
One day she'd run out of friends and favours and believed that night she and her son would have to sleep rough.
I didn't really want him to witness to sleep rough. That was my only prayer.
Although this flat can't be home forever, things are looking up for Maria. She has part-time work and is hopeful her boss can increase her hours. That's all for the future. Today, though, Maria has an important appointment. She and other young homeless people have come to Parliament to question MPs, and they hope get some answers from them. Well, I'm in the Commons now, and 100 young homeless people have just arrived here to quiz ministers about the kind of problems you saw in my report there. The Planning Minister, Nick Bowles, Conservative Planning Minister, is here to hopefully answer some of their questions. So, Alex, first, you've slept rough before, you've been in temporary accommodation for a year and a half, I think. Tell me what you think the problem is. The
pressing issue for me personally, good afternoon, Nick Bowles, is this. Once a young person moves into a hostel or a foyer, a lot of the time they don't have anywhere else to go after that. You know, they're sort of stuck there.
I think that, in a sense, one of the problems we've had as a country is that for 30 years, probably, we haven't been building enough houses. And what successive governments have done, and this isn't a party political criticism because it applies to previous Conservative governments and Labour governments, is because we've not built enough houses, the pricing of everything has gone up and up, whether in rents or purchase prices, and then housing benefit has come in to give people the income to afford the crazy prices. So we have this mad system that we're spending all of this money enabling people to rent a place rather than spending the money on building more homes so they don't become so expensive. But the problem is that young homeless people like you aren't the only people who need affordable housing. There are also people who've got young families and, you know, by and large, mothers with babies tend to take priority for reasons we can all understand.
I have a question on regards to the cuts in benefit and the under-25s housing benefit. The government is cutting that benefit for the reason why that the under-25s should move back to their parents. And what is the government thinking of those who can't move back to their parents or those who don't have parents?
Well, I think it is important to be very clear. Firstly, it is not government policy to withdraw housing benefit from people under 25. Let me be very clear. It is not government policy to withdraw housing benefit from people under 25. What the Prime Minister is exploring, and it's a real question, is there are lots of people out there who are under 25 who are working hard every day to try and save enough money, but they can't afford to get a place of their own. And where do they live? They live in their childhood bedroom.
The 7 homeless charities here today all say the same thing with one voice, is that the impact of cutting housing benefit for under 25s will mean thousands more young people who will be out of a home, some of them on the streets, including, Nick, this real problem about how do you differentiate? Because a lot of people who suffered, for example, family breakdown or abuse at home, they don't volunteer that publicly. They may be traumatised by it. They may be without a home as a consequence. But how do you differentiate? I think the government should finally scrap this nonsense once and forever.
It is...
Let me just bring in Maz, because I think you're sleeping on friends' sofas at the moment, but you have rough slept in the past, haven't you, and been in temporary accommodation. You had a specific issue on this very point of benefits cuts.
So it's like you're cutting down the youth services, you're cutting down on youth homelessness, the hostels. It's as though then at the same time you're saying that we need to invest in our young people. How are we supposed to believe you're saying that and you're doing that when on the other hand, all you're doing is cutting from us?
We currently, as a government, inherited from the last government the largest budget deficit of any country in the OECD, the largest budget deficit that Britain has ever had in peacetime. Do you know who's going to pay back those debts? Which generation do you think would be asked to pay back those debts? It's you. It's you who, age 30, age 40, age 50, will be paying higher taxes, will be denying yourselves housing, holidays, things for your kids, because you are paying back the debts that this generation, Jack's generation, my generation, irresponsibly ran out, because we don't run this country in a responsible way.
Thank you very much to everybody, and thank you very much to Nick Bowles, Planning Minister. Really appreciate your time.